Potomac hydrocarbons, polychlorinated biphenyls, pesticides, phthalates, alkylphenol surfactants, heavy metals, and natural and synthetic hormones. The paper then goes on to give the findings from 2 years of studies of the water around 3 or 4 wastewater treatment plants, one of which is the Monocacy plant under discussion. It is clear from the tables in the paper that there are many, many chemicals in the effluent of the wastewater treatment plant, and that the group of polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, which are carcinogenic, stood out in the report. So this effluent is going to be the inflow for the proposed facility and will be concentrated 3 to 6 times under very high heat, and we are expected to believe that there are no admixtures or new compounds formed in this soup. And as we have heard, there may be other compounds added to the mix. Clearly, what comes out of this proposed project has not been studied to the point where one could even think of using the phrase best professional judgment. Next, the concentrated pollutants are to be run 10 miles through a pipe that for many years was used effluent by Alcoa and others, as we've heard. So what is in the pipe with a lining inside that can add to this mess? No, seriously, what is inside the pipe? We have sent Public Information Acts and Freedom of Information Act requests to Maryland Department of the Environment, Army Corps of Engineers, and Waste Disposal Authority, asking this question among others, and still do not have an answer. I'm sure we'll find the answer sooner or later, but we are waiting and expecting to have it with enough time to file our written comments. This lack of information about what's in the pipe and how it may interact with the effluent is another example of there being no best professional judgment. Finally, after all of this, up to 400,000 gallons of the concentrated mass of chemicals reaches the Potomac River and is dumped into the river through holes in a 400-foot pipe in the bottom of the river each day. And we're supposed to believe that everything is just fine. Although I believe that letting the endocrine disruptors and emerging contaminants into the outflow of a wastewater treatment plant is wrong, I understand how this came about and know that someday this will need to be changed. However, what we are talking about here is not a wastewater treatment plant. I repeat, this new structure that is being proposed is not a wastewater treatment plant. With our current knowledge about endocrine disruptors and emerging contaminants, it cannot and should not be given the same type of pass as a wastewater treatment plant. I began by talking about my father-in-law who died from asbestosis, which did not have to happen except for greed and regulatory agencies taking no action to stop it. I also mentioned my almost one-day-old grandson and how the Potomac, along with many emerging contaminants, is flowing through his veins. I truly hope that someday all the good work that the Maryland Department of the Environment does is not overshadowed by people remembering that in 2012, MDE ignored the fact that the best and safest drinking water comes from healthy rivers and streams. They ignored the lack of complete information and therefore the lack of best professional judgment going into the permit request, and then allowed a new polluter the right to create a toxic mixing zone in the Potomac. For these reasons and others that will be included in our written comments, we ask that the original permit request be denied.